Shout out to G-Man Boxing. Where's the piss bottle? It's over there.
Alright people, this day next week is fight camp. It's the start of fight camp. 3 weeks, 3 cards in Eddie Hearn's back garden. In my opinion, the first week, which is the week coming up, is the best. It has, on paper, the most competitive fights. It just seems to be the best out of the 3. Alright, the reason why I'm doing a kind of review and preview of it is I'm actually going to be away next weekend. I head out to Cork on Friday and I'll come back until Sunday. So I probably won't cover any of the fights, or if I do, it might be only one the next day. So I want to give my 2 cents on the whole card in a nutshell. I'll talk about all the fighters that'll be on it, because not all fights are announced yet in terms of like who the opponent's going to be. You'll understand that now in a sec. But for the most part, I know all the fights. Obviously, the culmination of the main event is Conor Benn versus Adrian Granados. It's a good little scrap, but I will talk about that at the very end. That's why I have them 2 in the thumbnail. But I'll talk about the whole card in a nutshell. First off on the card, because I know it by heart, Sandy Ryan makes her pro debut. Now, Sandy Ryan, very experienced amateur, was silver medalist in the Worlds in 2014. She won gold at the Commonwealth, European champion. So, you know, she's done it all pretty much. So she's turning pro with Eddie Hearn. And, you know, I can't imagine she's going to be in there with the best of the best straight away, because, you know, they'll probably just build her gradually. But she's making a pro debut. We'll go from there. Next up, Campbell Hatton. Now, as many of you may know, I don't rate Campbell Hatton at all. I've nothing against the kid personally, but I've seen raw novices on their first day in the gym look much better than Campbell Hatton has. You know, and these are amateurs. They've looked much, much more refined, polished, talented than Campbell Hatton has. It really is a case of, like, put it like this, right? If Campbell Hatton was the son of, let's say his name wasn't Campbell Hatton, let's say his name was Campbell Finnegan, and he was the son of Mick Finnegan, right, and he was just turning pro, what would he be doing? He'd be on small hall shows probably once every year, something like that. For Campbell Hatton to be where he is, it is down to his dad. I know Eddie Hearn is trying to sell him to a casual audience. That's exactly what he's doing. That's what Ricky is doing as well. They're getting subscriptions from Campbell Hatton, no doubt, because it's Ricky Hatton's son. Can he fight like Ricky? Is he as good as Ricky? He's not. Conor Benn, who was headlining this card, I spoke before in the past in the videos I've done about him, that when he turned pro, I really didn't think much of him. I thought he looked very raw, very crude. There was athleticism there. I remember saying in videos, you know, going back way back when, that Conor Benn was in the wrong weight division, that I thought 140 would have been better for him. But I had a lot of critique of Conor Benn, but he looked way better. And that's saying something. He still looked way better than Campbell Hatton did when he turned over. So Campbell Hatton is... they're going to match him slowly. They're going to bring him up gradually. But even still, I can see Campbell Hatton being another Harley Benn, where he goes in there with someone who was absolutely garbage, who has no wins, and ends up being the first win of that opponent. I can see that with Campbell Hatton. Nothing against the kid personally, but it is kind of... When you look at like very good boxers, you know, there are fighters. I remember there was a guy on a Frank Warren show. I think he was knocked out in a couple of rounds. He was light middleweight. I can't remember the guy's name because I've heard of him before. I can't remember the guy's name. His name slips my mind. He's a light middleweight, and that was his first fight in like a year and a bit, and he could not get any fights, couldn't get on any shows even before 2020. And it's like so much more talented, you know, and he's not getting these opportunities. And again, nothing against the kid personally, but someone like Campbell Hatton, who looks like, you know, slap a blindfold on someone and they could probably do a better job, you know, in terms of the technique of throwing shots. So he's on this card, is what it is. It's not going to be anybody special. Moving swiftly on, Anthony Fowler, Robert Garcia. Now, I want to big up Anthony Fowler, you know, in terms of what he's been speaking about. Stand-up guy. In terms of his career, the way it's been going and the way it's been progressing, very critical of it, because it seems to me that Fowler lost so much momentum following the loss to Scott Fitzgerald. But Matchroom, you could see that Eddie Hearn, after the Fitzgerald fight, wasn't happy that Scott Fitzgerald won. You could see it. They were putting a lot of stock on Anthony Fowler. And since then, he's kind of plateaued at kind of British level. I wouldn't even say European level now at this stage, with the greatest of respect. He's kind of plateaued a bit. Robert Garcia was decent back in the day. But bear in mind, this guy 3 years ago lost to Martin Murray. And Martin Murray 3 years ago was shot to pieces. So if you're losing to Martin Murray then, you're going in with Anthony Fowler. I think with Anthony Fowler, they're hoping maybe that he's the first guy to stop Robert Garcia, because he's never been stopped. He's always been quite durable. So potentially that could be what it is. But I don't know. This could be an interesting fight. Garcia is a veteran, so maybe he'll be able to fiddle Fowler around. But look, I don't even want to see the Fitzgerald rematch, because I think Anthony Fowler wins that fight. But Scott Fitzgerald's really not been looking good. And I don't mean in terms of boxing. I mean in terms of just in general. I'm actually quite worried about Scott Fitzgerald. He really doesn't seem to be in a very good place. And I don't think boxing is really where he needs to be right now. So what they do with Anthony Fowler, I wouldn't mind seeing him fight the winner of Troy Williamson versus Ted Cheeseman. That's a good fight. I think Troy Williamson beats Ted Cheeseman personally. But there's very good fights at domestic level that Anthony Fowler could have. So this is probably just one little tick in the box and move it swiftly on. This is probably, in my opinion, the fight of the night. Tommy McCarthy versus Chris Billam-Smith. Now, Tommy McCarthy, a very good amateur as a pro, up until recently, pretty much up until he started working with Pete Taylor, he really has lacked a lot of things. Like when he went in there against Richard Riakporhe, he was stopped in 4 rounds. And you could see, he almost froze in that fight. It was like, you could see he was the superior fighter, the superior boxer. But he just seemed lacking something. And that was his last fight before he went over to Pete Taylor. Since he's been with Pete Taylor, he's got some good wins. He's looked impressive as Tommy McCarthy. He really, truly has. I think we're seeing the fighter that was always there, but he just never seemed to be able to find that little bit of spark. He's been training in Dublin with Pete Taylor. Pete Taylor was the dad of Katie Taylor. Excellent coach, excellent trainer. People say he looks like Joe Rogan. He does a bit. But Pete Taylor knows boxing. Very, very switched on, good boxing brain, very calm voice as well. He's a calm and influence. You ever hear him talk in the corner? He's not a loud, abrasive character. So Pete Taylor with Tommy McCarthy has been a very good match. He's European champion as well. So, he's obviously achieved. European champ, that's you don't turn your nose on that. It's a very, very good title to win. So he's obviously done very well for himself with Pete Taylor. He's looking in very good form. Chris Billam-Smith had that very close competitive fight with Riakporhe, split decision. Personally could have gone either way. Since then, Billam-Smith had some good wins. He's done, what he's needed to do. He's beat guys like Craig Glover. I think it was Craig Glover was his name. But in certain fights, he's looked, I don't want to say vulnerable. Vulnerable's the wrong word. He's not looked vulnerable. But he's definitely not impressed. He seems almost to be fighting within himself. I think Tommy McCarthy is the opponent who will bring out the best in Chris Billam-Smith. I think this fight's going to be excellent. I'm struggling to pick a winner in this fight. At the start, I was thinking Billam-Smith. And the more I was thinking about Tommy McCarthy, I was thinking, you know what, if he turns up, he could do it. I have to give a pick on this fight. It's going to be Chris Billam-Smith on a razor close decision. That's what I'm thinking. Razor close decision, Chris Billam-Smith. Might even be some controversy. Excuse me. But I'm going with Chris Billam-Smith to win this fight. Co-main event now. Kanju, or Zukan, whatever way you want to pronounce it, against Lee Wood. Big up to Lee Wood as well, by the way. Stand-up guy as well, speaking, his mind. I have to be honest about this fight. This kind of came out of the blue. I have an idea what they're doing with this, right? So, I reckon it's kind of all hinging on Kid Galahad, Jazza Dickens, and Josh Warrington against Mauricio Lara. I suspect that if let's say Kid Galahad wins against Jazza Dickens, is it next week or the following week, and Warrington loses to Lara, I suspect they'll do Lara versus Galahad. Let's say Warrington beats Lara, right? They probably won't be rushing to get him in there with Kid Galahad, providing he beats Jazza Dickens, but they might try and do Kanju, Lee Wood winner. Sort of way keep it all in-house. I'm making they'll do something like that. In terms of this fight, Lee Wood I've seen several times. He was trained by Dave Colwell up until quite recently, and he seemed to be one of those guys who was just about domestic level. You know, I think he lost to Jazzy Dickens in that golden contract, but he's always looked he's looked decent, Lee Wood. That's the best way to describe it. Now, his last fight, I forget the guy's name, something Muldo or something like that. He was an undefeated guy, you know, similar level. I think he was trained by Steffi Bull as well. He switched trainers, has Lee Wood, so he's with Ben Davison now, and in my opinion, just from the eye test, he looked like a new man under Ben Davison in his last fight. He looked very good, very strong, very devastating. So for me, Lee Wood is looking extremely impressive. I think Kanju's work rate, his volume, will be too much, and I think that this is just too much of a step up. I think that he's done alright at British level, but you're going to world level now. I would put Kanju in the world level bracket. It might be a bridge too far right this very minute for Lee Wood, so for that I'm going with Kanju to win this fight. Let's look at the main event. Conor Benn, Adrian Granados. Eddie Hearn's made it clear that with Conor Benn, he wants him in name fights, but not competitive fights, if you know what I mean. So like your Samuel Vargas, like your Adrian Granados, fringe level at this stage journeyman who would seem much better days. Like, bear in mind, it's been 4 years since Granados had that fight with Broner. Many people, I actually think at the time I scored it to Granados, felt that he won the fight. It was a split decision loss. You know, he's only been stopped by Danny Garcia. Danny Garcia is a decent puncher at welterweight, to be fair. But to me, that was when he started showing signs of regressing. He started showing signs of wear. Because although Danny Garcia is a decent puncher, you wouldn't want to stick your chin out from the hit. He's not a devastating puncher at welterweight, so you're getting stopped by him. He's not been looking that impressive as of late. He's had a bit of inactivity. So for me, it looks like this is tailor-made for Conor Benn. Conor Benn has improved dramatically as a fighter. I mean, as I said at the start of this video, Conor Benn, when I seen him originally, I just thought, oh my God, he's going nowhere. When I seen him against Cedric Payne in that 6-round war, where he took a beating, and realistically, I think I speak for many when I say he lost that fight, the first fight. That was almost like the wake-up call he needed. That was the wake-up call I think Conor Benn needed to realise you can't be trying to go in there with the hard man mentality that I'm just gonna outman this because I'm a fighter. Because you went in with that mentality. You could see it with him in that Payne fight. He went in with that mentality, and he nearly got. Well, he could have lost. He should have lost. You know, he was dropped several times. He was battered. You know, so I think since then he's been improving. I think it's Tony Sims he's training with, isn't it? I'm pretty sure it is anyway. Or is I think it is Tony Sims he's training with. I always get mixed up between him and Mark Tibbs. But he's been looking a lot better. He's been boxing a lot more. His punching power is improving. I don't think Conor Benn is from the eye test, he doesn't appear to be. It doesn't strike me as the biggest puncher in the world at 147. But decent enough power to get your respect. Granados is always shown to be durable. I suspect that if Conor Benn is going to stop Granados, it's going to be a late. I do hope we don't see what we did see in the Vargas fight, where, yeah, he buzzed Vargas, but the referee jumped in way too early. That was ridiculous. That was absolutely ridiculous, that stoppage. You could argue Vargas was more hurt against Amir Khan in their first round, and the referee let it go, than he was against Conor Benn. For me, I hope we don't see anything like that. I think that Conor Benn is either going to win this fight on points or a late stoppage. I can't see him stopping Granados early. I think he's going to be a bit too wily and a bit too experienced, and he maybe try and fiddle, maybe try an old man Conor Benn. You never know. No one's really tried to do that to him before. But ultimately, I think Conor Benn's youth, and he is getting better as a fighter, it has to be said. I would like to see him step up after this fight and maybe challenge David Avanesian. I'd even like to see Josh Kelly. I mean, he really is in the wilderness, isn't he? I mean, he lost in February, and we have heard zilch from Josh Kelly since that loss to Avanesian. Look, that's the plan they were doing. They wanted to do Kelly versus Benn on pay-per-view, provided both guys got through their respective fights. Didn't happen, you know, because obviously Kelly lost to Avanesian. I still like that fight. I still think that's a very, very interesting, intriguing fight, irrespective of the fact that Josh Kelly lost. I think that Josh Kelly stylistically gives Conor Benn a lot of problems even now. You know, you got to see how he is coming back from the David Avanesian fight, because that was a damaging loss, not just from the punches, but Kelly had such a... I remember, was it Conor Benn actually who said it about Kelly, that they met one day and he said that it was weird that Kelly was kind of saying, don't come between me and my destiny. Almost like he was, how do I put it, referring to himself as another person, if you know what I mean. It did sound a bit strange So it seemed like Kelly was kind of a bit away with the fairies, so maybe being brought back down to earth might actually hit him even harder than Avanesian did. Who knows? In terms of Fight Camp Week 1, that's my pretty much preview, giving my prediction 2 cents on everything that's going on. Best week is Week 1. In my opinion, it looks to be the best. On paper, certainly, anyway. I think there are still fights to be added to the other two, because there was fights added to this one quite recently, which was Kanju Lee Wood. So there might be more. Who knows? For now, that's my thoughts on this. Good little card. I hope we get to. I hope it's going to be a good show. I really do. Obviously, I'll probably try and watch it live, but I won't be doing any reviews for it because I'll be just in a different county. But maybe Sunday morning, before we head back to Dublin, I might see if I can get a bit of time, to get a video in and show you some pictures of Cork as well. I'll show you some little snippets of Cork as well. Cork's a nice city, by the way. So anyway, I'll leave you with that. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, smash the like button. Let me know your thoughts down below. Subscribe, of course, if you haven't already. Hashtag GMansRocks, all that good stuff. Lads and lasses, for now. Actually, I'll see you later when Joyce fights Takam. Peace.